That's why when you say I share my story, it's the stories of many other people. In 2005-15, a journalist called Alaji Sise of Taranga Efe was in prison many times. The whole world thought he was dead, I think. He was suffering really, really bad. And Kombe was defending her every day in court. And that's where I knew her, and we were interacting on the case. She was brave, doing her professional work with class and dignity, but also discretion, what we need sometimes. And then at the end of the day, Alaji managed to leave the country. And we were at the receiving end, so we continued the conversation, but she was still going to court. And the strategy was that we would distract the regime. We will ensure that nobody knows what was happening. He was in Dakar for almost 8 months hiding. 8 months hiding. She was still going to court until the regime decided to declare, in fact, to condemn him in absentia, which was, and we started to send wanted. He was wanted across. So we together, we managed to do what we were supposed to do. We tried. And at the end of the day, he was able to leave Dakar after 8 months. He was very lucky, in fact, because he left just 1 month before the regime fell. He left Dakar around in November, and Kombe came to Dakar to meet, debrief. You know, we follow up the case to see the client, you know, comfort him, ensure that he can leave. And we were happy also, another partner, the Canadian government, decided also to help and give him a safe exit so that he can continue and be safe. And that case showed a lot. And there are many other cases where women in this country did a lot. When all those political leaders were jailed, I think we had different discussions during nights, and the lawyers, the Hawasi says, Yasin, Miss Ben, and so many others, they all worked strongly. And that started even when we had the case of Mrs. Denton. I remember we were fighting. We said the Bar Association must do something. At the end of the day, women lawyers stood and started to fight until she was released. Doesn't mean that we were not supported by men. Men were there, but I think the women of the Gambia took their role seriously, and they fought. They were not making noise. They were not looking for fame. They were just doing what they were supposed to do. And for me, I think in the human rights work, this is what we need. We just need to do what we are supposed to do. Do it well, but also do it with other people. And trust is important. For me, when you do this kind of work, you need to have trust among yourselves. Volunteering information can put in danger your sources, can put in danger those victims that you are trying to defend, because not everybody would like their stories to be out. There are people, until today, they don't want people to know what happened to them 20 years ago. But that's their privacy, and we have to respect. This is also another thing that we need to understand as civil society. We need to understand also as human rights activists and journalists, is that they're people. People have went through hell. They don't want to be in the limelight. They moved on. Some decided that this is something that they wouldn't want to share. You have to respect that. So for any reason, you cannot be saying, oh, I've been dealing with this case, something happened to so and so, because that's the work you were supposed to do, and you have to keep that secret also. So these are the few things. So coming back now to the other issue, which is women in politics, issues around ethics, issues around governance. When we look at the National Development Plan, the most of the speakers, they already mentioned a lot. But when I looked at it, the key priority, you don't see gender equality. It's in the enablers, like the other you can see now. It's like, of course, women's rights is an enabler. I think that's something that we need to consider and put. It's already done. The plan is already developed. But I think by the time it is reviewed, we need to ensure that women's rights is put where it's supposed to be. Looking also at the leadership in general. Somebody mentioned it this morning earlier about information. Information is power. Those who hold information, you know, they have privileged position. If you are well informed in society, if you know before other people, you have an advance on them. It's like education. So you also, if you are not too generous, if you are a little bit selfish, you will want that position of domination to perpetuate the self. So you don't want anybody to come near you, or you don't want to share those information because you believe that there might be some competition. And I think competition is healthy, and that is what we need to try and build in this country. We need to compete healthily. We need to compete with class. We need to compete also and ensure that we get the best for the positions, either in business, in government, even in civil society. If we continue to pay lip service to quality, to integrity, then we will always have poor leadership. So this is also another point, and it applies to women. We cannot say, oh, we want just 80% of women or 30%. Let's just have anybody. I think somebody mentioned it earlier this morning. We need the quality, because otherwise it will backfire on women. What you will see, like an example in Senegal, when they have the parity law in 2010, politicians, what they've managed to do is to ensure that they select those who are going to be, because they have a system of two tiers. Like you have the direct and then the proportionality, which we are trying to, I think, do in this new constitution. Like the direct vote, and then you have those that are voted through list, so that at least you can ensure that minorities, vulnerable people, and women are classified generally in those sectors, can be elected. And what they do generally, they place women in those lists, but they don't allow women to compete. They don't also allow women in their party who are good, who are educated, who can do the job to be. So they select women, the cheerleaders, the women that are, and sometimes it backfires, because then when people are at the parliament, the same men will say, oh, the parliament is so poor, because we have only women who can clap here. Most of them are not. But when you look at the vis-a-vis, men also in the parliament, most of them are not educated, they are not good, but it doesn't disturb anybody to have a man who will just sleep in parliament. It's like you are invited tonight at the news, everybody would like to see what Yakumba is doing. If Yakumba makes some blunder, she was not prepared, it's going to be the talk of town. If she's not well dressed, she has to say, but look at her. So it's so difficult for women in this position to improvise, just to be themselves, because you always have to do the extra. For a man, you can just call, because I'm partly in the law but media sector, you just call somebody, say, oh, I want you in the news. Maybe they will just arrange a little bit and go. If you invite a woman, you say, I want you in the 8 o'clock news, what are you going to talk about? She will think about it many times. She will want to make an impression. She doesn't just want to come and say anything. She will want to prepare. And that also probably is something that we need to take. And then in return, they will say, oh, we have been inviting women, but they will never come. You wait until 2 days to tell a woman who is not used to talking in public that, oh, tomorrow we want you to come and make an opening. She will not come. Because culturally also, you're not used to be assertive, to talk in public. So then you see, and then what you say, oh, we've been inviting them. And these people are not always coming, and they don't want to speak out, because also you don't give them time to prepare, and you don't inform them. So all those things also are sometimes deliberate tactics to sideline women. Because then you look at it, you say, I have somebody for the 8 o'clock news. Normally you plan it for about maybe 3 to 4 days. It depends on the urgency. So now if you don't have the person you want, so you will think of anybody. And generally you will say, oh, maybe we should have just this woman, because we need somebody to show that, we do respect parity. And you can see it even in the big organization. They'll plan like a forum where they only have a bunch of men, and then suddenly they realize it's too odd and the photo might not look good internationally. And then they look at, they say, can you please just sit? Even you're not saying anything. I say, no, you can't sit if you're not saying anything. Just refuse. And the second thing is also, they will tell you, but just come. But at the last minute, if you're not prepared, don't improvise and refuse, because all those things also politically, either professionally, are not good for women. And we've seen it, all along. People are put in situations where they won't give you enough time. They won't give you the right framework for you to excel. They will just tell you, oh, because you are a woman, we have space. Would you like, as if, they're giving you a favor. So just on that note, now in terms of the Gambia here again, the gaps are many in the national development, but I think women groups, the Women's Bureau, they left, but I think this is something that we need to look seriously for the revision. The other thing is about this constitution. Everybody is happy that we may have 30% in one way or the other. But I think the one that we need to be very careful about, which we have to be serious, is also the personal status. There are a lot of innovation, a lot of issues, and we've seen the decisions of the court are not yet in favor of women. I think also we need to be serious, because if you are not empowered, if things are not well in our homes, it will be very difficult for us to be standing in public life. All of the balangana nam nefa. So to say it's like you have to ensure that, for example, the laws are protective enough. Issues around violence against women are dealt with properly. Issues around equality, pay. I'm seeing the president of the chamber, or the CEO of the chamber is here. These are issues that we want to see guidelines, like in the companies. It's not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. We've seen women not being well paid. And I think another thing that we can look into also is the boardrooms. Because when people say equality, everybody thinks it's minister. We say, how many ministers? Now they were saying that we may have 30% of ministers. I think these are good, but they are not the most significant, because policies are at another level. You need women at different levels, permanent secretaries, directors, like CEOs, managers, different levels for you to make an impact. And this is very important that also we need to have women in the boardrooms, because that's also where money is decided. That's where businesses are. And if you are not economically empowered, you will be obliged to be at the mercy of the maybe head of your party to nominate you, to help you to prepare your finance your campaign. And if they don't like you, you may not be able to be chosen for any position. So also professionally and also economically, women have to be ready, prepare to ensure that also they can explore fully their potential. Lastly, about security. It's very important to talk about all these issues. We have the 1325, which is going to be reviewed very soon. The country is going through the security sector reform. I think we need also to have a more gender-sensitive approach, but I would say also that to have the women input in those security discussions, because women are the ones affected generally when issues of security are happening in the country. They are the caretakers, they are the caregivers, and also they are the most affected when violence happens. We know that women also are the primary victims of, abuses, generally sexual abuses and other abuses. And in the public, as well as in the private, we need to have those policies that will be looking at safety at workplace, security overall in the different administration, but also ensuring that the overall security sector reform that the country is going through is taking into account the role of women and also integrating their needs, but also listening to their voice. We are in a good position as a country with all the challenges. We can say that we are cautiously optimistic. We're coming a long way. We know what was there before, where we are. It's a non-finished business. We need to work. The hope is that we are undertaking a lot of reforms. We are hoping that those reforms will be meaningful. But the most important thing, the laws are not enough. We need women and men with dignity, with integrity to man those institutions or to head those institutions to ensure that our aspirations are not dashed and the country will move forward slowly but surely in a good direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Jang Senghor, for that insightful testimony as to your years of work and the different experiences, your powerful celebration of other women and their work done with humility. I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Your call for more relevant roles for women, more impactful roles. I think that was really well done. Thank you. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Marnyang to talk to us a little bit about economic inclusion and what, in your experience, do you think has been done in terms of holding the government accountable, in terms of the budget, and how it's been implemented, and how inclusive is it really at this point? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. Assalamu alaikum. I think the issue of women inclusion or economic inclusion is a deeper governance problem. And this is all the way up from the central government down to our local government. So there is not that participatory system whereby females are included when it comes to the budgetary formulation, consultation to know about what is it that is their priority. So I think if that is lacking, then forget about other issues, because with all these policies, they need money for it to be executed. So if the policies are developed also at the higher level without the consultation of the key stakeholders, which are the women, then it is going to be one-sided and it will not actually solve the real problem that is on the ground. And this, I think, is the lack of operational efficiency in these institutions. And then during the past session, the man from the Office of the President made mention that they acknowledge corruption, and then at the Office of the President, they're working on establishing what is called a delivery unit. I found that to be confusing, because the Office of the President is a political office. It's not an accountability office. We have what is called the Anti-Corruption Bill, and I think Honorable Member can attest to that, which is currently being reviewed, and this month it will perhaps be passed. And if you go to Section 6E of the Anti-Corruption Bill, which talks about the functions of the Commission, it gives the Commission power to monitor the practices of public institutions and to ensure that they deliver. So this will become an independent body that will investigate public institutions, including the Office of the President. So if there is a delivery unit in the Office of the President, I wonder how they will monitor the Office of the President himself in regards to delivery, and the Vice President's office is also close to the Office of the President. So I think that is one of the confusion that I just wanted to clear, that let us not duplicate efforts. The independent anti-corruption body can take care of that. The Office of the President could be a political office, the executive, and the anti-corruption can be the watchdog for that particular office. So I also wanted to look at the rhetoric of economic inclusion for women in the Gambia. So in 2019, the Ministry of Women, Children, and Social Welfare started receiving budget support from the government. And 2019, they had a budget allocation of 58.2 million. But out of that 58.2 million, 74% of that budget is going to recurrent instead of development. So you wonder, that kind of budget, how will it be able to deliver results and improve the livelihood of women in the grassroots? So that is something that is worrying. And then if you go down to 2020, there comes an increased budget from 58.2% to 79 million. And majority of that also going to recurrent instead of development. So when you make this comparative analysis and then you look at the situations of women on the grassroots and the issues that they are facing, even though they are not part of the consultation when it comes to the formulation of the budget, and when it comes to providing solutions to those issues that they are faced with, to get results is always going to be a problem. So the reason why I state this is because there was a time, not long ago, Future in Our Hands, took me as a consultant, and I was Ibrahim Adrame, he can attest to it. I was talking about the budget to these local inhabitants, and I asked them, do you know that the Gambia has a budget? None respond in the positive way, except one man who was around the urban area before. And I asked them, what is it that you want the government to solve in 5 years? So point out 5 key outstanding, 5 problems that you are currently faced with. I know there are a lot, but just point 5. And you will all agree with me that the first thing that you will hear is health, agriculture, access to water, and the likes. So I said to myself, if the government is wise enough, when it comes to the formulation of the budget, when they consult the people at regional level, and then ask them about this kind of question, and make sure they strategize in the formulation of the budget, in 5 years, in 5 consecutive years, these 5 key problems will be addressed by ensuring at least each budget year, they put a budget that will cope that problem. And then the following year, they do the same until the 5 years. So you get rid of a 5 huge problem that the community is going through that has not been addressed since Gambia got independence. So if this is not the case, if there is no inclusion, if the budget process is not participatory, and women are not part of the decision making, then forget about getting results. And I wanted to give you a stat that was published by Gambia Bureau of Statistics in 2015. So if you look at the workforce by gender ratio, is 53 to 46, with male consisting 53.6% of the workforce and the remaining going to the female population. And if you look at the population of the Gambia, the majority are females. And I think the stats in 2015 says 51% of the population are women, but they are lower in the workforce. So, and I believe when you want to curb poverty, channel it through women, and then you will see the results, how the community will start thriving, because most of the economic drivers in these communities are women. So if they are not empowered, also forget about getting results.
Mar, I think before you continue, that's a good point to bring in Yakumba into the conversation. Yakumba, as a member of parliament, can you tell us what are some of the mechanisms being employed to engage community members? I mean, we've heard here that in the sectors we work in silos, and we're hoping that work is being done at parliament level to improve our consultation processes. What are some of the approaches that are being engaged so that people in the community are part of the policy formulation process?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Thank you to the organizers for Movement of Democracy, SAIB, and the Future in Our Hands. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon to you all protocols duly and respectfully observed. In regards to your question, what Parliament is doing specifically, I think Parliament is beginning to realize that it is important to go back to the grassroots and ask questions, ask the women what they really want. And recently, the Health Committee, for the first time, has organized, just last week, a town hall meeting in relation to a new act, Women's Act, coming to Parliament. I think this is the right step towards the right direction on getting women involved and asking them exactly what they want when it comes to policy and legislation. In regards to budget, and when it comes to the budget and how money is allocated to women, would really be felt by the women it is allocated for. I will just give an example of recently what happened. It has been discussed here by the earlier panel about the issue of taking loans in the name of this woman, and it will never reach them because of the way of how these monies are allocated in the first place in this document. Because this 47 million loan issue they have raised, I think at the end of the day, it wasn't 47 million. I realized that what's in the motion before us and what's in the document before us are two different figures. And at the end of the day, the minister had to amend the motion, because in the document, it was 17 million grant and 4-point-something million loan. So that's about 21 million, not 47 million. But if you look at how these monies were allocated in the schedule, at least 5 million out of this 21 million was going to consultation. And I asked the question, who are we consulting? Did we really ask this woman what they wanted, like he said? What are their issues? If you're bringing international consultants, paying them that amount of money, and this 5 million was set out for consultation, and less than that amount, maybe 4.1 million was set out actually for the grants and subsidies going to this woman. To me, that didn't make sense. Why pay someone 5 million to tell you what to do, and at the end of the day, give the woman that these monies are meant for less than what you're paying for consultation? And these are the issues that we as parliamentarians, we as a nation as a whole need to pay attention to. If you were listening keenly to the conversation with the earlier panel with the woman, I think she was from the Ministry of Women Affairs. With what she said, you would realize that she wasn't even aware that this amount of loan was approved by the National Assembly. They were not even consulted as a Ministry of Women Affairs. And how these executives sold this loan to us was, this is for the women, we want to improve the women, up to the point that the MPs themselves, the National Assembly members, were scared to disapprove of the loan because of the messaging. The message has already gone across that this project is to empower the women. So they're scared that if they say no, even without proper scrutiny, it will affect them come the next electoral cycle, because this is how I call it executive blackmail. This is what they did to us. So these are important things that not only parliamentarians, but everyone else need to watch out for. We really need to go back to these women and ask them what they really want and make sure what is allocated to them goes to them. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's quite clear. I have a follow-up question. Yes, we still have challenges, but I think we would agree that the freedom of speech space has opened significantly. Yet, we are not seeing women, as many women as we want to speak up, take up these leadership roles. In your experience here, Kumba, what do you think are some of the challenges, in spite of the Women's Act, gender policies, all these beautifully written documents? What are the challenges that are really hindering leadership of women?
Thank you. I'll just start by using a quote by Benazir Bhutto, one of the first female prime minister of Pakistan. And she said, as women, the sacrifices are greater. There are double standards. The standards are higher, and then the challenges are greater. And these are the reasons why you are not seeing as many women as you would like to see participate in the political space. We have issues of sexual harassment. These happens, even though we take them lightly in our society, but these things happen daily in our lives as women politicians. We have religious and cultural barriers. Most people believe because of religion, women are not supposed to be leaders. This is another issue. And cultural barriers too. We have the guy, the representative from the Office of the President said something very interesting, that if we were serious about our roles, we shouldn't be bothered about tech and what to take or what to take rare. But it's because these men are literally forcing us to do this. These are the roles that we prioritize first. This is what you grow up hearing. So it will take a lot to change the mindset, because you grow up in a household as a woman, and the most important thing you hear about is say. It should be your priority. So you take these things seriously. So unless we start changing the conversation in our whole households, on our dinner tables, things are not going to change. We were just having a side discussion about women, and it involved most of the young people in this room. And most of them said they are not interested in politics because their families would discourage them. They don't think that because of everything that has happened during the Jammeh era, that this is a noble thing to do. So I find that quite interesting. And I will encourage young women, particularly those of us here in the room, to start being interested. I will say it and I'll repeat it again. It starts from there. You have to be interested as a citizen in the governance of your country. You have to make the decision that you want to know where this money is allocated in the budget goes, who is responsible for what, and start asking questions and holding people accountable. If you do not develop this interest, things are not going to move forward. Thank you.
Great advice from a woman who's actually doing it. And taking from your statement on sexual harassment, I'd just like to ask Madam Jane Senghor about your view on security currently, because we still have issues, pockets of violence going on, especially against women. Rape, cases of rape keep being heard almost on a daily basis. It's really concerning, and we feel like there's a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach to these human rights violations. From your vantage point, what do you think about security in that aspect?
Well, it's quite complex. Maybe we just focus on one or two points. Yeah. Maybe following up from what Yakumba talked about in terms of sexual harassment and the other measures or the other behavior that are hampering women's development. I think we need to look at also something that is very critical, the mind shift in terms of the way we see women in our society, including ourselves. Falu mentioned that, these women, when you are in meetings by a certain time, they say, oh, maybe they will not say Mataji and Sule Gambia. But obviously, in the evening, if you don't put things together, few men will hit the food for themselves, and they will complain that you're never available. Everything is done by the helper, which I guess is a problem for some, not all. But I think many women also are feeling in our societies, not only in the Gambia here, that you don't have to choose. What I always say, you don't have to choose between your family and your professional development, because then those contradictions are very difficult to manage. And we've seen many successful women, they have to be on their own, keep their kids, being single mothers. It doesn't have to be that way. We have to build a society that is catering for the families. That I always say to my friends and colleagues, I have a colleague who was very interesting, like, when your wife is promoted, I think when they come home, you feel happy, you feel proud. And then I've not seen any man who will say to the wife, oh, I've been proposed to, for this position to be promoted. And the man will say, no, don't take it. I think, they always feel happy that, something is progressing in the family. So they see it as a family thing. That is, we are progressing as a family. My wife is, now a minister, or my wife is a permanent secretary, or my wife is the head of a project. But then the reality of the day, that now you start, the requirements. You have some time to finish late, start early, not being available for a lot of other things. And that's when you see that the support that you need, either for the kids or for yourself, is not forthcoming. And that's where many women across Africa will not be in position sometimes, or it will decline diplomatically to take certain position because they want just maybe to stagnate so that they can have a balanced life, ensure that you protect your family and have a decent professional life, which I think is a big miss opportunity for us to grow, for many women also to move to other levels. But policy must be there. I look at our policies; they are very progressive in terms of maternity leave. But we need more. We need more encouragement. Also in workplaces, we've seen a lot of things that are happening, hampering women to assert themselves. We need the right policies. But also those policies, you cannot implement them if you don't have capacity. But also that's where the integrity and the leadership is coming. And it's only also with men who are courageous, who are leaders, that you can also do those, like it's not like a denunciation culture that will make the rape habit change. It's courageous leaders who will have the policies, monitor, and see it as if it was done to my wife, if it was done to my daughter. Because a no is a no. If you want, it's because you want. If a colleague doesn't want to, she just wants to work and progress, you have to allow her to do so. They're not interested. So you cannot subject them to certain humiliating things for them to progress. So I think these are the things that we need also to build into our systems. We need to build into our policies, but have also the mechanisms for the accountability. Because safety at workplace starts with the safety, the integrity, the physical integrity and psychological integrity. Because if you are not comfortable to working in a setup, you cannot deliver. And that we've seen many people, either they leave their job. Yakuma mentioned something about the politician. You can see it in journalists, many journalists in Africa, even here. We've trained many journalists here, and some of them very brilliant young people. We took them to Dakar, to fellowship, different. And two, it's still in me. At the end of all those processes, they told me, I just want to do this development work because my family just wouldn't allow me to be a journalist because, there's a lot of hustle. And they don't want to have trouble with the government. And they were really good. But this is also something that you need the family to support. You need to have the space yourself. You need to be courageous. You need to push. But, society also, if society doesn't support you, there's little you can do. So that's why we have few. Well, of course, there are few guys who are good, who will help. Their colleagues will help their partners to progress. But we need to do it, we need to make sure that it's a national policy. It's not left to individuals.
Thank you very much, Madam Jang Senghor. And I think that's why this type of forum is very important, where we bring together all sectors, all genders, to be part of the growth process. At this point, I'd like to open up the floor for questions, because I think we are really running out of time. Are there any questions with a raise of hands? Can you please forward your questions to the panel?
Thank you very much to the panelists for those insightful discussions. I think this one is just in addition to the comments made by Fatou Jang Senghor. I think in terms of policies, there is a lot that needs to be done. I fully agree with you. Like right now, from an HR perspective, right now we are reviewing our policy in my organization. And one issue that I've been echoing is we have very little women participation in science, because most of the mothers don't have the opportunity, to work from home because they are married and then they have a family to take care of, and then they have to be in the office till late, and then it's affecting their career. So one of the things we are trying to push right now is trying to encourage them to work from home, like flexibility to work from home, like, because of technology, you can work from home. And then extended maternity. If you feel that you still need to take care of your baby, why is it that you cannot give you leave of absence without pay to encourage you to grow? And then the facility of having creches in the offices to create mothers to bring their babies to the office so that at least they can do exclusive breastfeeding. All those things are things that we need to do to encourage women to participate in decision-making process. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think MRC is a great example of women-sensitive organizations, and they should be emulated. Now we'll have Madam Jame Sidibe, and then 2 more questions, and then we'll have the panel respond. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would like to seize this opportunity to congratulate the panelists and yourself as moderating very well. I wanted to really add on to what Madam Fatou Jang Senghor said. That is about women in decision-making at all levels. That it's not enough to have only tokens, like you have only, I said it earlier in the morning, a female vice president, that's enough, 1 or 2 ministers. And it should cut across, and I'm glad that I have the National Assembly member here, it should cut across all the levels down to the grassroots, because that is where the votes are. If you want women to vote for their fellow women, that's another problem also. It didn't come out. But we have also women not having confidence, like it's the socialization process in ourselves to lead we believe that women, we are not leaders. So, and I think men capitalize on that, to believe that women cannot lead. And we believe in ourselves. We rather vote for a man than to vote for a woman. I was just talking to the vice chairperson of the National Women's Council in Basse during the, the fire outbreak, with the corruption also, Mr. Nyang. Monies have been coming in. And she had a stall. Her whole stall went down. And we understand $2 million is coming in. 400. I said, you should be part of it. You should ask them, where is the money going? At the markets, the majority are the women. So I think women should start asking those questions, just like you all said and Yakumba said. We should start asking questions, and we should not be satisfied with only having a few women at the top and the majority at the grassroots and are not catered for. I think I wanted to inject that into your discussions. Thank you.
Can we have Madam Foster?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would like to add my voice to complimenting the presenters, the panelists, for their different contributions. I just want to highlight a point. Living in a world that we're trying to inject equality is a challenge. In terms of representation, one finds out that many of the men who are already in these positions would not want to leave their positions of power. I say this from experience. When in 2002, we felt that the OAU transforming to AU needs to take into consideration that women need to be there. And some of the initial discussions were, no, these women cannot. Some of their husbands will not allow them. Some of them cannot travel. You know, all sorts of excuses. But after a lot of advocacy, after a lot of support, today we are enjoying the fact that at the AU Commission, you have 50-50 representation. It has not been easy, but we've also been pushing. Now it's about over 30-something%. We said it should go down, right down. And that is what we also want to see when you look at the solemn declaration on gender equality in Africa. Heads of states have already made a commitment that they will ensure that there will be gender equality. This is since 2004. We are in 2020. So we have to make sure that when we do advocate, we do not slip doing the job. We have to make sure that we keep at it, because the policies are very well. But when it comes to handing over power, it's a problem, and we need to find ways of dealing with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is very true. And I guess we don't need the power to be handed over. We need to take it. Can we have, is it Mama Jaju? Yes, please. Oh, yes, you, sorry, yeah. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. I am Amina Tandour, a retired civil servant. I'm representing the Senegal-Gambia Women's Federation. My contribution one is about the aspect of this Maslaha syndrome, about security issue. You know, in cases of violence against women and cases of rape cases or whatever, it's because of the women, you know, sometimes they will report the cases. After reporting, because of society harassment and the family relationship, they will come back to withdraw the matters, you know, which is very discouraging. More sensitization should be done. I know there is, but at least more should be done. Although there are people around who are doing the sensitization, and then you have the child welfare unit at the police or whatever, but at least it's not going up well more. The other question I have is about what is Native doing about the women trafficking, which is increasing? Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are great points. I mean, I've had reports of cases of sexual violence where it's the police actually who help with the family negotiations. And it just shows the extent of lack of awareness about how serious and the negative and long-term, lifetime impacts these abuses have on women or whoever is being abused. So it's important that we take them seriously and avoid the maslaha. So back to my panelists to just round up with those comments, reactions to those comments, and then we say goodbye.
Thank you. I will just touch on the issue about the women inclusion, that issue come down to the grassroots level. I totally agree, and I think as a nation we've made that very clear, and during the constitutional consultation process, and the new draft that came out has identified that there will be 14 new female representatives, 2 from each region. I think this is a very, very welcome move by the drafters of the Constitution, and hopefully this Constitution will pass, because right now we have only 6 women parliamentarians, 3 elected and 3 nominated, and this is just about 10% of representation of women in Parliament, and this is quite very, very low. So with the 14 coming on board, I think that is very welcome, but it takes us back to, are we ready to come out? Are we confident enough to come out? Are we ready to beat the social norms that women cannot be leaders to come out? Are these young women or these women in this room prepared to run for electoral positions? That's another issue. We could have a situation where we'll have these 14 positions saved for women, and then you wouldn't see women who will come out and take the position. So we really, as women, need to also do our part, because I think this is a great, great opportunity for us to have our voices heard in Parliament. That's just what I wanted to add.
Okay. I didn't have enough time to, talk about some of my points, but I will just adhere to the time as stated by Jay. So the issue of women asking questions, or women groups asking questions in regards to finances that are supposed to come to them, I think that is a very important thing, because if you don't ask questions, to government you are not interested, and they decide what you have. And them deciding what you get does not really address your problem. And I wanted to give you an example. There is this community called Sarebojo, and according to the villagers, there are like 35,000 in the surrounding areas, and they have a community clinic. And for them, it's only once in a month that the Minister of Health sends public officials. So if you are diagnosed, if you are sick, you only have the opportunity once in a month to be diagnosed. And sometimes when these public officials are coming, if they know the place is saturated, they wouldn't come. So for them, they take it as a good faith that the government is doing good thing for them. They were not asking questions that, as the population of a community having a population of 35,000, and the Minister of Health having one of the good chunk of our budget going to the Minister of Health, without the community having a community clinic, and they're using donkey cart as their ambulance. To date, that is the case, and it's not only Sarebojo. You have so many communities in the Gambia that are using donkey cart as an ambulance. Hadn't been, they engage their National Assembly members to ask government in regards to the money that is going to the Ministry of Health to solve those problems. Is it reaching out to the people? And that comes about, that takes us to having what is called KPI, key performance indicators, in this ministry to see the budget that is going to their ministry. Is it delivering? Do we have to increase in the, in the upcoming financial year? So these are some of the things that we need to enlighten women. The reason why they are not asking questions is because most of them are not aware. And I think going back to the community and engaging these groups to make them aware about the budget allocation and the expenditure and what is it that that particular budget is supposed to address in a particular region, which is very difficult sometimes to track because of lack of budget transparency, is something that we need to add voice to. And to just draw the curtain on my last point is the issue of trafficking in person. So there was a time that the Ministry of Tourism made a declaration that the government of the Gambia is planning to send 10,000 Gambians to Saudi Arabia to work in Saudi Arabia. And I asked myself, is that legal human trafficking? Because there are Gambians that have returned from Saudi Arabia who were, working there, but basically they were more or less treated like a slave. Some of them, their kidneys taken away from them, and all this very ill-human treatment that was meted on them, yet still the government wanted to take these people to Saudi Arabia, saying that they have a security mechanism to protect. How are you going to protect them when you're not there and you have a small human resource at that particular region to oversee all the Gambians there? Why not create a job here and then empower them instead of another state empowering them and then their citizens treating them? So these are some of the things that I think the government really needs to be serious about when they talk about women empowerment. So thank you very much.
Just to say that as the famous statement of former First Lady and then of Secretary of State Hillary said, women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights. If women cannot deliver if they are denied of their fundamental rights. If women are vulnerable, if they are not protected in their families, if there are no laws to protect them, if the space is not safe, the likelihood of those women standing in public platform to be to represent their communities either on a political platform, assert themselves, those likelihoods are very, very slim. So I think it's a process. So it's a holistic thing that we need to look at. It cannot be just isolated to say you have empowered women in the political space, but you overlook some of the other important things like the well-being. And the well-being is also the security, but also the economic empowerment. So I think this is why this conference is very important, to bring all those sectors, policymakers, government, but also the private sector and all those advocates to reflect on how our roles are overlapping and how we can foster, each other's work. The last point about political representation is not enough to say that we may have, as a corrective measure, some of those 14 seats that will not be just reserved for women in case they're not elected on the mainstream list. I think we need to go further. In many countries, including even in some European countries, you have parity laws, and people will say, yeah, you have to, it's an aspiration, you have to do something. Then we've realized that with many years, if you don't have enough women, then you will get penalties. People were paying, including even in France, in Italy, in many countries, they were paying fines for the political parties. So now, the other layer is to say, if you don't have women in your list, your list will not be accepted. In Senegal, for example, which is closer, is the way that the parity law of 2010 took. They will not accept any list that is not parity. But they will always manage to have a man and a woman in the list. So we'll never see a woman and a man. It's always like most of the political parties and then. So to ensure that at the end of the day, most of those, the final, either the majority leader or the minority leader at the end will be a man. The other thing also they do, and I've seen in this country, is that we've set up all these beautiful institutions where you always have the chairman and then a woman deputy. And look at all the institutions that we have, even in governance, and we keep saying, with all this board, I think it's a colleague was saying that let's start counting. I don't know how we have Kombe, but I think there are, Aliu maybe, all the boards in the private and also and in the parastatals, there are only 3. So a lawyer, Nene, told me that because when I was appointed the chair of GRTS board, She said, I'm counting, you are the third. And there are three, Jare and Nala, the National Legal Aid. So these are the only, so Ali, we want more. And then these are the things that we are happy that your deputy, whom I'm sure you're grooming, to be all supportive, that also should work together with all of us to ensure that in the private sector also the boardrooms are paritaire, the boardrooms reflect the reality of the country. It's not only in the public sector, but also in the private. The other day I saw Binta, she was appointed in this. But look at the photo. There are few women. There's the one thing that I do, we all start to do. If you are invited in any conference and you are the only woman, either in the big opening, or they just ask you to come to the table because, oh, you know, you are very prominent, but they pretend, in fact, because it's not true. So you can say, well, I just don't want to be the only woman, especially if you have all these women who are sometimes even more experts than you, who they know more than you. And then for some reasons, they just don't want to invite many women. So they invite one to the high table, and then you have 6 men and one. In the media, you can see it. All the debate, you have about 4 men, and maybe sometimes they just bring a woman. And the kind of issues they ask you to talk about, they are very trivial. So I think these are things that we need to monitor, to watch the space and ensure that we stand up and also talk to the men who are open to correct these things, because these are odds. Yes, 2 days ago, Guterres was saying that if you look at all these things and they don't shock you, and you don't feel that you are embarrassed as a man, or all of us, like I cannot organize myself as a woman, I cannot organize anything, and my colleagues, they know that, anything we refuse as an organization to have an event where partners will tell us we don't have, and they know it here in the Gambia, they know it, we don't have women. We check. Please select a member, competent woman. We always insist because we just don't want them to say, oh, we don't have any in the group, the bar association, all these other entities. We ensure that they bring a woman. So I think we need also to put it as a requirement. I think Alice this morning was very smart. He sneaked out when he saw his name, and I just say, well, maybe like that was a smart move. So I have to commend him to say we're talking about women, and then I was not happy at the end when they say she's representing the CEO. She was representing the organization in her own right, and the CEO decided, looking at the whole thing, that it was fitting to allow or to give her the platform to say and represent the organization. I think these are the things that we want to see. Thank you very much, World Movement. Thank you, Ned, again. Thank you, the center. Thank you, Fisher, for our hands for organizing this. We need this kind of conversation in the country going forward.
Thank you, Madam Fatu. Just what you said reminded me of something I wanted to say in regards to the inclusion part. And I will take this gathering as an example. I think it's important that when we are organizing anything that has to do with women, for us to include political parties and invite them to send women representation. This is very important because these political parties are the governments in waiting and the government. And these women that belong to the political parties will end up taking up decision-making positions in government. So it is important that we include them now so that they can hear all these things coming from different women and they will understand what the issues are and appreciate it before they even get into governance. It's really important. I would just like to remind organizers of that, and also for us to ask more of our political parties. I'll just give an example of my party, the United Democratic Party, that in our last Congress, we passed a resolution before the election started that 30% of the representative of the executive are going to be women. I think these are things we need from political parties, all the rest of the parties to do. And this was the reason that brought me to sit on the executive, because an opportunity, a door was opened for me, and I went in for the elections. And I am now sitting on the executive of the United Democratic Party. I think that's an affirmative action that political parties itself can take on their own. And if you have an executive of a political party that holds the 30% are women, automatically, if these kind of parties come into government, this will reflect in the governance structure. And I think this is very important, just something we can all pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask your help to give a round of applause to this great panel. I think they've done justice to the topic. They've given us really good insight into the issues, the common issues that we women especially across sectors face. And it just really makes it more of a priority for us to work together, to come together and not work in silos anymore. We in civil society, with our comparative advantage in advocacy, activism, we have the business women who are so great at, business. We talk about capacity building for women on income generation. So how come civil society that is doing the capacity building is not tapping the knowledge of the business community who know what to do? How come we're not sitting with government as the custodians of these policies to make sure that things change in favor of us women? So I think we have a lot to talk about. This conversation cannot end. Let us continue it online, in other forums, and really make the change. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator Jenaba. Thank you to all the speakers who have come here to share their experiences and the work that they're doing with their various organizations. I just want to remind us again, in order to continue this conversation, to use the hashtag Sectors Together #4Prosperity on Facebook and on Twitter. I realize that we are running short on time. We have started one hour behind time in the morning, so we have to make up for that time that was lost. So we're moving on straight to the next panel, inviting on stage other set of actors that are equally important in governance, those in the private sector. I would like to invite on stage Mrs. Nafi Barry, President, the Gambian Women's Chamber of Commerce. I would also like to invite on stage Fatou Sain Gay, Executive Director, Gay Njoro Skills Academy. And I would like to invite on stage Narcisse Marena, proprietor of Moonflower Montessori School and founder of Teach for Gambia. And finally, I have the honor to invite our moderator for today, who is the moderator wasn't here. But he is not around. Oh, he is. Oh, okay. You were not around before. I was confused. Sorry about that. All right, so Mr. Aleu Seka of GCCI will be moderating this session, and we hope that we will be able to manage our time.
I will try.
Better than the previous ones.
I will try.
Thank you.
Now I'll sit over there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm so pleased to be in the midst of so many powerful women. So let's give them a round of applause. Also acknowledging all the previous lady speakers as well. I will pretend to be a he for she, which I am really. But I will especially try to act one today. And allow me to read the introduction. It says, building the institutions of a strong market economy should result in reducing barriers to doing business and promoting entrepreneurial culture that provides access to opportunities for all citizens. So our topic today is inclusive approaches to entrepreneurship and policy engagement. Since the new Gambia, and within the global context of the economic outlook, both locally and internationally, business opportunities must be created to ensure that transformation and growth are beneficial to all. The overwhelming number of SMEs, especially in the informal sector, are owned by women who struggle to sustain and grow. Oh, okay. And the fact is that despite recent progress in claiming our rights in the Gambia, much more efforts are needed to transform our new democracy and relative economic stability into improved livelihoods, particularly for our women folk. Inclusively, the government, private sector, and CSOs must all work to grow and create more businesses so that our communities can benefit from improved incomes, wages, and livelihood. Indeed, bringing together an agenda for higher productivity with policies for inclusive outcomes which matter to people, and in this case, our women, cannot happen without further action by all and sundry. Of course, we should also remember that we cannot afford inaction and past inequalities which undermine people's confidence in open trade and markets. And we've seen recently in France, USA, and UK, where they've been protesting. I should also mention that globalization, migration, digitalization, demographics, and climate change are transforming the way our economies work, providing new opportunities for growth, but also raising the risk of deeper inequalities if the gains from growth are not evenly distributed among the people who feel them. So since our topic this afternoon is about inclusive growth and entrepreneurship, I will pass on immediately to my lady guest speakers, and I'll start from the very right, Madam Nafibari, who comes from some several decades of civil service in all sectors and has worked and supervised many men. So she has no fear, no qualms dealing with men and women. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Nafibari.
Thank you, Aliu, and good afternoon, everybody. And I want to use the opportunity to thank those that have invited us here this afternoon. It is rather late in the day, but I hope we can do justice to the topic that we've been given. Ours today, this afternoon, is inclusive approaches to entrepreneurship and policy engagement. That alone, the phrase alone, tells you that, defines what inclusiveness in itself is. Inclusiveness is bringing people together, right? Therefore, if we have to have the inclusive approaches to entrepreneurship and policy, that policy, of course, is government. Entrepreneurship is the private sector, including civil society. So here, straight away, we're talking about partnerships and people coming together. I think the internationally accepted benchmark for gender equality is articulated in SDG 5, which is gender equity. But we have heard from this very room that our NDP has gender equality as an enabler rather than a strategy. So here is a first point that we should be concerned about. I think we've talked about that. I think it is important for government of the Gambia to fulfill its mandate, its commitment rather, to gender equality within the framework of their policy design and implementation. It is worthy to note that, yes, we have had significant steps in advocating for the empowerment of women. However, I think we're still lagging behind, and there needs capacity development for women entrepreneurs, especially since we're talking about entrepreneurs and women for that matter. I think we should enhance gender mainstreaming to make sure that some of these things are, like I said, we don't want to get into most of the details, but I think first and foremost under this topic is the importance of inclusiveness. I think when we talk of inclusiveness, We're talking about geographical inclusion. What is happening in the Gambia? We lack permanent institutions in the provinces. Let's say beyond the greater Banjul area, it's done. It's either a one-off workshops being held there, you come back, there's no permanency. And I think it's important, not only for entrepreneurs, but I think, let's take the business of business registration, for example. You have to come all the way, maybe the furthest it has gone, which I am not even sure, is Brikama. It was limited to Banjul and Serekunda. I mean, you find the women as small and medium operators, yet you want them to come and register to formalize their business. What impact would that have on them if they have to travel? It's added cost to everything that they do. We have to institutionalize entrepreneurship training outside of Gambia, outside of the greater Banjul area. It's not good enough when we visit, go, do 1 day, come back. I think if we are to include everybody, and we're talking about the women as we know them, we should have these institutions there. This brings about the opportunity for collaboration of having different offices. I mean, if it's too much, you can collaborate. The offices could collaborate. For example, rather than having chapters, GCCI could have a chapter in the provinces, GWCC. This duplication of entities, why don't we have one office, permanent people there, and the cost would be down in terms of both human resource and capital. We're talking of presence in the provinces. For example, you have the TVET training centers, but they are there for TVET and not entrepreneurship. If, again, another possibility is to also enhance the capacities of the TVET, but let us not subsume entrepreneurship into this training. It has to be a standalone on itself so that people will benefit from it. Again, when we talk of inclusiveness, financial inclusiveness, access to finance. Financial inclusiveness has not been reached generally in the Gambia, but women are worst affected. I think it was said again in this room, we ask for collateral when there's no definition of ownership for women. They don't have it, it creates problem. Therefore, for them to access finance, they will not be included. We need specific packages and products for women in terms of the loan that is being granted. Generally, like I said, financial inclusion is a problem in this country, but again, the women are worst off. We talk of fiscal policies. What about the taxes on the MSMEs? If the taxes are still high, the women will never be engaged because the women are the ones that we find in the MSME sector. Studies have shown that 80% of entrepreneurs are in the MSME sector and are informal as well. If you need to register your business, you need to pay all these taxes, and you cannot, and then you are a woman. How can you be included? I think that calls for exclusion rather than inclusion. Again, we talk about harmonization of the taxes between the local governments, the governments, etc. Multiplicity of taxes, small businesses cannot afford. Consultations between private sector and government, especially when introducing or increasing new taxes. We have had the new business forum that was introduced. Again, we hope the women would continue to be part of it so that at the design level. Again, we talk about these things, and thanks to the reason why it's important also to have women in certain decision-making processes. I may not want to take the, what would I say, Okay, I may not want to take up the ownership, okay, but at least I have contributed in having that in place and making sure that it works whilst I was in office. So sometimes you look at who is there and who makes it work. We talk about inclusiveness. Again, we have to have dedicated policies. There is an entrepreneurship policy, which we have developed since 2016. One thing that we have said in that policy is that the action plan needs to be driven by private sector. And this, if it happens, private sector, women are participating. There should be specific focus on building the capacities of local enterprises through both human and capital, like I said earlier. There it includes the establishment of the Women Fund for improved access to finance. So what it needs is real follow-up for this to happen, and we need to strengthen MSMEs and industry development, following which employment will be created. The other thing that we need to do, I think, is to promote Made in the Gambia brand, because a lot of women are engaged in local production. If we promote the Made in the Gambia brand, I think it would be, they would be included. There are various approaches. I think, like I said, a lot of things has been done. We have the establishment of the GWCC, which is the Gambia Women's Chamber of Commerce, where I come from. It's not that nothing is being done for the women, but we're talking about inclusiveness. That's why we're looking at women in particular. Every other thing is being done. The playing field is not level. Where you have the other Chamber of Commerce, the Parent Chamber of Commerce, the men, women, youth, children, it's everybody's business to be taken care of. We thought, in addition to whatever is being done, you bring out the women and make a focus on women entrepreneurs, and then it will be better. We now privilege, I think all these things would bring about inclusiveness. We have the She Trades, which is focused on connecting women to market. Training is available, etc. Let me stop here, and if I have another opportunity, I'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barry, for putting the subject in context. May I now kindly request our second panelist to perhaps give us 5 minutes insight of our own experience. Can I start with Mrs. Gay, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Auntie Nafi, for that in-depth knowledge that you've given us on the entrepreneurship. You've been a champion for it for a long while now. I would like to thank Future of Our Hands, my hands, for bringing us here today to talk about the entrepreneurship ecosystem, which is very key, and especially to direct it to women and women in development in the country. As Mr. Seka rightly said, women are the champions of entrepreneurship in this country. If we look at women, 80% of the entrepreneurship sector is run by women. But if they have the right support they should have had, maybe it would have moved to another level that it should move to. Because if you support one woman, it means you support a nation. But getting the support that they need is sometimes lacking. I will come to the key points that women are supported now. I can attest to that, being an entrepreneurship trainer now and gone across the country to see what women are doing BDS services, which is the business development coaching and mentoring as well, talking to women directly, having a face-to-face connection, and also knowing their problems, their needs, and what happens. We have a GCCI recently with the Start and Grow Your Business, which is a very, very, very in-depth program that supports women to know how to access funds, how to manage their funding, which was very key and very critical, because women before don't know how to access funding, what to use for those fundings, and how to also manage the funds that they have. But with this, it helps them to do that. And also we have the GAIPA with the empathic training, which we have gone across the country, training women, youth, mostly women, because we have to have 40% of women in some of those trainings in order to enhance their capacity building to do those things. We talk about the entrepreneurship policy, and I was part of the entrepreneurship policy because I did the education side of it. Why we did that was we have inclusiveness of entrepreneurship now in TVET that we have now. We have inclusiveness of entrepreneurship in the TVET. Why do we do that? Because we want them to see them as entrepreneurs, so that before they finish the skills that they're doing, they see themselves as job creators rather than going out to seek for other jobs because they've got the skills already. So that has been added in the entrepreneurship policy now so that it can be implemented. Implementation is a problem for the Gambia that I will attest to. We write a lot of policies. We have the export policy, the entrepreneurship policy, the national development plan, the SDGs. We just talk about them everywhere we go to, but to implement what we have is a challenge for the Gambia. We hardly do not implement. We just talk about certain things. My credit will go to the EU, especially the YEP. They've come and they've told the ball game, especially to the young people of the country. Now you see the young people, they work with eco-innovation. What is eco-innovation? They think about the people that they wanted to serve, right? And then they think about the societies that they live in, to look at the problems around those societies in order to solve them. And finally, they will also think about their environment. Looking at businesses now, most of them are environmentally friendly. The YEP is here to support them with capacity building, access to finance, not really what they want, but what that can make them start. Because for me, as an entrepreneur, I don't believe that money can take you off business. You can have an idea, have a prototype of the idea that you have, and if you test the prototype, if it's working, then, you know, if people like it, they can pay you and you just do more of what you want to do and have a business. And from there, if you're committed and persistent, you'll be able to do it. Doing all of these other sub-courses that are around right now with the SIYB, the GIZ take-a-fee programs they have, and also the GAIPA Emprotech program, it's helping a lot of young people. And looking at women in the young people populace, most women are getting into business. You see them in universities and they're telling you they wanted to do something else, adding value to what they do. And adding value, being creative, thinking a lot more gives you more than what you wanted to do. Before, people said, I don't start a business without having a business plan. But nowadays, we look at the business model canvas. We look at design thinking. We think and have a prototype of what we want, and then we have a business model canvas to help us to get into the new generation that is going on. And with that, it's helping a lot the young people to do some things that they are doing. So I've seen a lot of things going on, which I believe if we work a little on them, it will help. And the GWCC that comes in as well, supporting women, looking into women problem to support them. And this is getting women also on trade fairs, on programs outside the country, giving them a study tour, giving them the exposure to do more things than with the capacity that they have and adding more capacity to what they do. I believe that would help. Because 3 years ago, I wrote a business plan for somebody in the province on the NEMA project. The challenge was the access to finance, because it was a 40-60 deal that she had to get in order to get the money. NEMA was giving 60%, but the 40% she cannot afford because the land that she had was very cheap in the province. They wouldn't accept it. So she ended up losing the project not to get it because she couldn't have the land. Lands are owned by men in the provinces, and they rather made their women work so hard in order to feed them, feed the family, before they give it to them. So women are less privileged in that. We went to the CSW to try to find that out, to talk about how women can be supported. Women from the Gambia went up to Mountain Kilimanjaro to say that if we can climb this mountain, why can't we have a land? We've seen that. And it's only Uganda, I think, there and Tanzania that supported their women to now have access to land. But Gambia, looking at what they said this morning, they said the land policy was made in 1959. That was too long ago. Up to now, there's no policy on it. There's nothing acted on that. These are the things that are challenges for women, and we have to work on that in order to support them. But the entrepreneurship ecosystem now, it's moving ahead, and I've seen a bright side on it, seeing things going further, and I believe the 80% that we have in the entrepreneurs, if we support them, because the entrepreneurs are the movers and shakers of any given economy, and they move the country big time, so we must support them. Thank you.
I should mention that let me just get the name in order. Mrs. Sen Gay is the most recent woman entrepreneur of the year 2019. So let's give her a bring her up. Huh? You see, she even has more accolades as well. I can't even remember all that. It's now my pleasure to pass on the mic to Madam Nasi Semarena, who's CEO of Moonflower and Montessori and Teach for the Gambia. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. So I'm a female entrepreneur, and my passion is really about how we create spaces so that they're inclusive for all women. And I think Mrs. Berry mentioned that. I think when we talk about inclusiveness, we just limit it to women, and mostly it's women within the greater Banjul area and women who are educated and elite, and I know the Lord Mayor mentioned that as well. So I'm not going to repeat what Mrs. Barry said, but I really do think that these conferences need to be happening in the provinces, as well as our state institutions need to be based there. But on a deeper level, I think on an individual one-to-one level, some of the things that we can do as individuals are, when you're invited to something like this, or you're organizing a conference or heard about a loan, look outside of your immediate circle, because one of the things we see is that we go to the same conferences with the same faces and the same schools and the same lawyers, just teasing my friends. I think if we look outside of our immediate circle, we're able to be more inclusive. I think a diversity of voices is what is really needed for this movement, and I call it a movement because it shouldn't belong to anybody else. It should be a movement of all Gambian women towards inclusion. And we should look beyond standard levels of education to actual knowledge. What constitutes knowledge? Part of the reason that our development is so slow, it's because it's not authentic or inorganic. I think Yakumba made a mention during her speech or something that she was doing regarding the budget we spoke about right now, is that who exactly is involved in the process? Who is involved in the process? I think it's so important as a people that we really try to include everyone. We also inform the donors, because the donors come up with what they feel is best for us. I think if we listen to local, authentic knowledge about what works in our current rural systems, what is it that the women need, then we can feed that back to the donors from grassroots to the executive, as opposed to just speaking with the people on the top or following the donors' move as to what they feel we should have here. I think access to finance is one of my biggest challenges to growth. You know, as an entrepreneur, most of us are social entrepreneurs. We create a social system for our employees, which includes health, includes education, includes training, includes psychosocial support sometimes, includes housing. And all of these are informal. This is the role of the government. It shouldn't necessarily be the role of the entrepreneur. And on top of that, that also creates an additional burden to us, and there are no tax breaks to sort of alleviate that. Then finally, I think as women, I think Jay mentioned that, Jay Nabasar, that we need to be a lot more vocal. I think we're a little too nice in these spaces. We don't have to wait to be given things by the government. I think we're at a stage, there's enough of us that are educated, that are informed, and that when you're given a seat at the table, that you should be someone who is vocal and who actually brings up the real issues. I always say that if you give me a seat at the table, it's because you've called me here not for the good lunch, but to have a say. If you don't want to hear my voice, then maybe I shouldn't be here. But that 1 second that I have at the table, I'm going to make it known. I made a mention of corruption, and I think that's what filters down to the very bottom. If we look at a lot of our issues, they're just about lack of information. For example, what do we know about the grants that are going out for women? Again, either this goes to a small circle or we never hear about it again. So why is it that it's not digitized so that information is at our fingertips for those of us who are educated, and for those of us who aren't, there's ways of reaching people so that they can tap into that information. But if you want information, you need to go to a government office and spend 3 to 4 hours on that. The average entrepreneur does not have that time. So I think those are all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause, please. How am I doing for time? Very good, I think. Okay, we're going to take a few questions from the floor. So if you could just take the mic. We'll take 2 rounds of 3. But whilst you do that, I want to just say from the GCCI perspective, some of the things that have been talked about in the earlier sessions, and that Mrs. Senghor reminded me of several times. I'm very proud to say at the GCCI we have 30% representation at governance and board level. Please give us a round of applause. And we did that before it became sexy. I guarantee you, we've had that for the last 10 years. My own deputy is Madam Konate, who you saw so eloquently. Not only that, but 4 out of my 7 management team are also women. So how are we doing at GCCI? Not to mention, as Fatu Gay says, at our trade fair international, 70% of our participants are women. 80% of the training that we conduct are for women. I can go on and on, but I'll save that for later. So you all know what we do at GCCI. I'll take a few questions from the floor. Yes, madam. Please introduce yourself first. Okay, and where are you coming from?
Okay, it's fine. So my name is Esther Terry. I'm from Ghana. I just want to ask Madam Nafi a few questions in regards to how taxation exemptions are given to small enterprises of women. I know these big corporations and all that are given tax exemptions and all that, but you see these small enterprises of women, and they operate, and within a space of 3 months, they are supposed to be paying some amount of tax that they can't even afford to do that. And again, I just also want to find out, I know the African Development Bank have set up a new fund for women entrepreneurs. I don't know how Gambian is positioning itself to tap into that fund, because that fund is not only looking at building small women entrepreneurs, it's also looking at helping women in terms of documentation, how to get financial assistance from the banks and all that. So I don't know how you are tapping into that particular fund. Again, I also want to find out how you are pushing your government to sign the new ILO's sexual work harassment policy that has been put in place at the workplace. Another last one is also has to do with how our businesses, even government, is making the working environment more child mother-friendly environment. Because if Chamber of Commerce for women, I presume we need to be holding the government accountable. In that case, it makes the private sector also follow suit, because we are talking about women advancing in their career. And you cannot have women being in the house, doing maternity, and then coming home and coming back to work, and there's no child-friendly things for them to still nurture their kids and enjoy their working environment. So if it has happened, for me, I believe that every person wants to be promoted at the workplace. And so when you have a situation where this issue is not working properly, you see that women are not moving higher on the ladder. And like my sister said, we are not supposed to sacrifice that bit of our life just because we want to be in the corporate world, which I think is not fair. And I know this is also a practice in Ghana. My last one, I know it's a practice in Ghana, and I know most of the private institutions are doing it, that they are asking these young women not to get pregnant for the first 2 years of employment. And as we speak, this is a law firm, even in Ghana. They sacked 2 lawyers just because they were pregnant. And so I want to understand what policy engagement or what you are doing to address some of these critical issues.
Thank you very much, madam. We'll take another one. That was a loaded one, but we'll take another questioner. Please go ahead, madam.
Thank you. I had one in the previous panel. That was a concern. We talked about sexual violence, which I believe is in the increase. Because I'm Janet, to start with, coming from the Gambia Teachers Union. Right now, we are chairing the network against gender-based violence. And over 900 cases have been reported on sexual violence. Think of those that are not reported. So it is a concern. Now, coming back to this panel, I just want to know, nowadays, female teachers retire and they go back on contract. I'm looking, asking for an advice, whether there is a way that they can go into business. What would be the way if we may have help from the panelists? Thank you.
Okay, since we're on the floor, let's just take one last one.
One.
Can I come to this end? Who's got the mic? Can you pass it on to the lady in white here?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Or is it afternoon still? Thank you. My name is Fantasane. I'm a student of the University of the Gambia. I'm an activist and at the same time, an ambassador for Gender Center of Empowerment Development. That's Esther there. My question will be addressed to Mrs. Nafi Berry. From your deliberations, I spotted something that really struck me, and it's technically, from your presentation, it's obvious that there is disproportionality between the NDP and the SDG. If I got you correct, gender is an enabler under the NDP, but under the SDGs, it's a strategy, you said. Am I correct? Okay, I said under the SDGs, gender mainstreaming, you said. It's a strategy. But under the NDP, it is an enabler, that's what you said. So for me, it's kind of a disproportionality between those two. Yeah, exactly. So how do we remedy this situation, and how does it affect the commercial spectrum, is my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like most of the questions are for Mrs. Barry, so rest assured she has competence. I'll come back to the floor in a moment, please. Thank you.
Okay, Madam, thank you very much. The tax exemption that we're talking about is what we're advocating for here to bring about inclusiveness. I think Mr. Seka will bear me witness. There was a time, then I was on the other side of the table as a public servant. They were at GCCI, and together we tried to convince GIPA, the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency, so that we could lobby government to allow, and that was what brought about the reduction of the registration from 3,000 as it were to 500. But we are saying you pay 500 and register, which is an advantage for the young business or the woman own business, but then after the end of the year, you are required to pay taxes, income tax here, whatever, all the various taxes. So it is that I have talked about, that we really need tax exemptions, not one-off things that would not help the business. About the African Development Fund thing, we have heard, and I in particular have heard about that, and we're looking at ways and means to connect. I mean, it's a private sector affair. People have to approach them on their own. However, what I see here in this country is that, again, we come back to the issue of access to finance, because our very own banks are very liquid because there are no specific products, if you like. They are all liquid, they have monies, but they are not lending. Previously, it was treasury bills. Now it's not that. They still have their money stuck, but because of the high risk, as they call it, or the lack of specific products for the younger entrepreneurs or the female entrepreneurs, monies are not being given out. And as a result, some of these institutions don't deal directly with organizations. They have their monies through the bank. And the bank has the option to weigh which one is more profitable, giving out their own monies, which they have in excess, or trying to access certain funds. Like the IFC window, I remember, Gambia was not privileged to be able to access for a very long time because of these issues. I'm not sure what the conditions of this AF Development Fund are, but we will endeavor to look at them. Now, with sexual harassment, honestly, it's not my specialty. Somebody else may want to talk about that in terms of what are we doing. I know the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Employment is a constituent of the ILO. Probably they are taking that up, but I don't see any problems in trying to have a commitment in addressing the sexual harassment issues. Child-friendly environment, Madam, you are right. I think that is needed. Like we say, the women, I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And some of these things are issues. We just, I think many years, I could call that many years now because it's more than 5 years, when we introduced the maternity leave of 6 months. That is creating a lot of problems. And even women, you hear even women castigating that law, saying it's too much. And I think the young ladies of childbearing age are facing problems of employment because people are not eager to employ the young ladies just because of this 6 months leave that they are entitled to. Too often you hear, I mean, somebody recently said, well, why are you saying that? You are not going to maternity. I say, I don't have to go to maternity to support the problem. We're talking about the future generation. If the mother stays at home, has more time for the child, I think we're building up a better society in future, right? Because health-wise and all the other things that go with it. But certainly it's a problem. I don't know about the child-friendly environment and having crashes at workplaces, etc. Well, it could be tried. It has not been tried, but the one that we have tried, and this is really why we're not having inclusiveness, because if you subject the woman who should be on leave to 6 months, or disallow her or harass her in terms of not going on confinement leave. You just came last year, you spent 6 months, you are afraid to get pregnant, therefore how can you build a family? If you don't build a family, if the family is not secure, I mean the office or the business or whatever you call it is also not secure. So it's a cycle that we need to encourage. Since we are talking of inclusiveness, we need to look at all these issues and make sure we harass them. And whilst I have the mic, I don't know whether the guy that left the last panel was here when he talked about the budget expenditure and monitor. I just wanted to add that before you monitor a project, it must belong to you. You must know what it is meant for. I think we should look at the budget laws in terms of where people, and again we're talking about the grassroots, what is their contribution to the budget? You cannot come, a budget that was not prepared by you, the inputs were not given by yourself, you don't know anything about it, you see the solid figures coming out in a statement, and you want to monitor that budget. What were the inputs in terms of what is needed? Who decides that you have a road in Farafenye as opposed to Basse? I mean, those things are very critical, and I think that is most important. I just wanted to say before we lose the opportunity.
Thank you. Can I just answer to the lady? I would like to answer, ma'am, to your question, right? You said you're retired and wanted to get into business. How do you do that? I guess you have a passion of doing something, right? You have a passion of doing something. Get 3 or 4 ideas together and see which ones you're strong with, which ones you're weak with, your weak points, your strong points, your opportunities, and look at the threats around them. If you do a proper SWOT analysis of all the 3 businesses that you have in mind, the one that you feel that you're very comfortable with, that's the one that you can take. And looking around you, you every day see things that people might need, things that you will need daily that you can say, okay, if I sell this, I know X, Y, Z can need it, and I'll be able to get something out of it. That's how we do business. Look at your SWOT analysis, what you know that you are very comfortable with, get 3 businesses in mind, do a SWOT of all those 3, and see how best you'll be comfortable with one of them, and then take that, look around to see whether there is a need for it, because every business must respond to a need. If there is no need, then there shouldn't be that business. Okay, and then finally, talk to Aluseka, he'll help you with the SIYB so you can be trained to know more about that. Thank you.
I could probably add a little bit about the creche and the baby-friendly facilities. So I mentioned a little bit about curating spaces for women to be comfortable. One of them is just breastfeeding or bringing your child to work, both in the public and the private sector. When you look at places like the US and to a large extent France, not that they're the leaders in everything, but they really made a conscious, intentional effort to ensure that women who've just had babies, and I've had a child too, that you don't want to leave your child after 6 months with just anybody. So they really invested in creches and subsidized them. This can really impact our education system as well as allowing more women to get into work. The other issue is also paternal leave. Yes, why should the mother only get maternal leave? Why is that just the exclusive taking care of the baby? Is the exclusive reserve of the woman. If the dad gets paternal leave, like in Sweden, they actually share dates, which means that both parents can care for the child and the mom doesn't have to put her career on hold. So these are just a few things, but a lot of our policies are either designed by men or actually bulldozed by men. I've been in spaces where policies are made and a guy just gets up and says, this is not the way it's supposed to be, this is how it's always been, and that's it. So I think for as much as possible, we need to bring a lot of young women, and let's not just look at the experts. Let's look at the people who are actually experiencing the system. And this is, I think this is one of the things that we suffer a lot with policy design. We're just so complacent or happy with those who we believe are in the know. My friend was just telling me about a woman whose baby almost gave birth, whose baby was almost eaten by hyenas, you know? And just me as a woman, that just makes me really want to do something about donkey cart delivery, which is still something that's real today. So we really need women to design the policies for women. And I know that there's a lot of talk of this in the US, but I really think even here, this needs to happen.
Thank you. Well, you know, as a he for she activist, I have to say we cannot have our cake and eat it. We may pretend, but you know, pretending is one thing, but the reality is another. I have to say from studies that have been done or research particularly on the maternity leave, 6 months. As Mrs. Berry says, overwhelmingly, reports are that it is a disincentive. So young ladies are not being employed. So we must find solutions. We cannot ignore these facts. Let me also say, referring to the earlier session, men want successful women. Believe me, not all men are scared of successful women. To the contrary, I love successful women. I love you all. That's why I'm in your midst here this evening. So please rest assured that there are some men that will support you. Let's just find a balance. I have to say, we are, regretfully, I have to terminate our session. I know we could have had some more interaction, but in the interest of time.
May I say something quickly? Apparently, there was a woman here who has been raising her hand since in the morning.
Okay.
She thinks I've been ignoring her.
Okay, so we'll give the lady a chance.
Hello, good evening, my colleagues. I'm sending my sincere thanks to all those who contributed in one way or the other to organize such an important forum, conference, which geared towards the improvement of women, especially in politics. Here, I'm so much grateful and I'm very happy. I'm very biased also. Looking at my right-hand side on top of that table, the shed being up there, it seems that I'm the one there because I am a catering officer and I'm so much grateful. To gain Euro, I have some ex-students whom you know that they also have a lot of training up to their qualifications and to gain their certificates from Gain Euro. I was so proud when I was invited at Q City and I just heard some of them mentioning my name that they begin from me. Before going further, I have to introduce myself. My name is Nguiseka from North Bank region. I am here representing the Inter-Party Committee, meaning IPC in bracket, established by the IEC. Because we all know that in Gambian politics now, we are seeing a lot of differences. You know that that is not the essence of politics. They said, at regional level, we have to organize some committees there to build peace in politics, to talk to communities, to sensitize them. And there, they identify a chairperson for the North Bank region, chairing all the parties, and my humble self, I'm the chairperson of the IPC committee in the North Bank region. Also to add to it, that since morning, I've been struggling to bring up my experience. I'm telling you, and I'm very frank with you, I'm telling you from my heart, fact, from experience. I am a retired teacher. Throughout working with different communities, meeting different type of people, different sector, and I know a lot in human being. So here, being a teacher, in the next minute, I was a politician, which I never thought of. Because I said, if all of us have to back out to say that we don't want politics, politics is not good, politics is very good. It's those politicians and they are militants who at times disorganize things. Because politics is not there to form enemies. We are there to run our nation. Politics is part of nation building. And if a man can stand out there to make sure to say, I want to be part of a nation builder, I want to be a nation builder, why not a woman? So I said, hence I have retired. Let me try this and see, and have little experience in politics. That's why many people, when they saw me in the media, they were very much surprised because they never thought that I would be there. Journalists are coming to interview me. I'm there at the media, nationally, internationally, and that's why even I'm sitting here, because I'm very much exposed now. Just to say that a politician, there are qualities of a politician. What a man can do, a woman also should try to be able to do it.
Thank you, Mrs. Seka.
This is why they are saying gender bias, gender bias, gender bias. I am telling you, violence in politics, it happens to me. when I was a candidate, I was going on campaign. Some of them will be following. I was competing 3 men. I was the only lady running for mayoress at the rural areas. They were surprised because they were telling me, 3 men, 1. I said, yes, it's a trial. I want to try and show out my talent so that people will know who I am. Just that you should have confidence in you, love your country, be part of the nation building. But they were there sabotaging me. When I have my slogans, my photos, they will come and tear them, going to the media saying some things against me, which you know that is not right, because I'm a lady. I'm a lady, but we ladies also, we should try to support each other. We are the very people who will not support our how to call it?
Thank you, madam. Well done. Thank you, madam.
Discouraging each other. We will be,
thank you, madam.
you know, what I want to say is too much, but next time, make sure you invite me. I have a lot to say, and I have a lot to send to the government. Yes, let them consider those at the rural area out there. What a woman can do in the urban area, the same woman can do it at the rural area, and I'm here.
Thank you. Danielle, take note. Invite her the next time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I would like us to continue, but we're really behind schedule, and I would welcome, can I kindly request we continue the conversation afterward? Thank you so much. I'm not going to summarize because I promised to try to finish on time. Yes, I know. Okay, I'll tell you what. Can we make an exception? The lady in red has been dying, and you know, I don't want to bust into singing the lady in red. So we'll hear her. Can we give her a mic just for 1 second?
Should we?
Can you speak up a little louder? Can you rise, please? So that we can hear you. Or can somebody pass on the mic?
Can it be 1 minute only, please?
Thank you. I just want to add something on business. My name is Mama Ejajo. I'm representing the trade union. The engine growth and the development of any family which constitute the nation are women. In terms of business, which mechanism are you putting in place in terms of creating facilities to encourage women entrepreneurs? Our market is being dominated by foreign products. What can we do about this? And I believe with this, we can save the productive sector of the economic. I want us to.
Thank you. The president of the Women's Chamber will answer.
We have a free market economy, right? And we are signatories to the ECOWAS protocols. So most of the people that we call foreign, in the protocols themselves, they're not foreign. They have a right of abode and a right to live here, right? What can we do? We need to look at ourselves. I don't think anybody is stopping anybody. No Gambian in your right mind would get up and say, I want to register my business, and you go and somebody tells you no. The opportunities are there. Like Mrs. Gay said, look at what you are best at and do it. Don't look at what somebody else is doing. Most of us, our problem is you don't look at what you can, what you have comparative advantage on, what can you do best, but you look at what Nafi is doing. Nafi has been selling Ebe, and everybody comes around her. Now I have to sell that. No, am I good at that? Am I a good enough cook? I think the possibilities are here. People need to tap on them, if I understand what your question was. Because nobody stops anybody, and we don't also want to go against the laws of, if somebody else is doing it, we're not doing that. I think we're talking about democracy and good governance here. So you cannot be signatories to protocols and then at the same time infringe on those protocols. We are not encouraging that. What we want is, if you are interested, and the opportunities are here, we're just saying, there's the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, which has been here for 53 years. What they're trying to do is to encourage women to, encourage Gambians to be involved in business. Recently, as recent as 2019, we came up with the Gambia Women's Chamber. What are we saying? We're here to educate, empower, and try for women to succeed. The charges are not much. Everything is being done. So nobody is stopping anybody from participating in the business environment. So I don't know whether I have answered your question. Huh? But that's what I got from your message. If anybody else has something to add.
I think we're really running late, so I must apologize and pull the curtains at this stage. Thank you very much to our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause, and I'll pass it on to the MC.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aluseka, sorry. And thank you to the panelists. We would like to move this forward really quickly. First of all, I will need you to wake up. All of you who are sleeping, please wake up. We've come to the end. Almost. So finally, as we draw near to the close of this ceremony or this conference, I would like to invite Mr. Buba M.S. Fabure, Director of Future in Our Hands, to give a closing remarks on behalf of his participating organization. Mr. Fabure.
Thank you, MC. National Assembly members present, Lady Ward councillors present, Future in Our Hands, the Gambia board chairperson and members, Future in Our Hands, Sweden, chairperson and members, representatives from NED, National Endowment for Democracy, International Republican Institute representatives, representatives from the public and private sector, civil society, the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed pleased, honored, and privileged to deliver a closing statement at this important conference. I wish to use the opportunity to thank you all for accepting our invitation out of your very busy schedules. I also want to go further to thank the World Movement of Democracy, CIPE, NED again, for having the trust and confidence in my organization, which is Future in Our Hands, the Gambia, to fund this very important and timely conference. I also want to thank the organizing committee, Future in Our Hands, the Gambia. You've done great. I want to thank them through their coordinator, which is Madam Jena Bassar. I am definitely proud of the committee. What I told the committee is that we will do some advocacy so that we go to the next level, which is we will be the organizers of the OIC conference that is coming. We've got the experience, and I think we can do it. So, committee, thank you so much. I also want to thank Danny from DC in the United States, together with Mambi. I think what we demonstrated here was really, really what we call partnership and working together as a group. We've set up a group, and we also had an email exchange. Whatever they are doing in the United States, they share with us, and whatever we do here, we share with them. And that was what made the day successful today. So this is a lesson for us that people can work together even where they are at different locations. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to thank you so much, particularly the participants, for their active participation. We've seen how people were active. Just to quote the last speaker here from the North Bank region, she was so excited and wanted to contribute. And really that made me very, very happy, because this is what we expect from the participants. There was a lot of participation, and during this participation, there was willingness to share experience, and this is very encouraging. I believe that this encouraging factor for the women to actively participate and take up their rightful positions in national development. I believe what we have discussed here, there are issues that we know. Jennifer said it here, other speakers said it here. Don't wait to be given. Go and take it. If you wait, you will still continue to be waiting. Please go and take it. If you take it, nobody will stop you. Mr. Aliuseka said it here, and I think I am also supportive to women. My staff can attest to that. I have the belief and conviction that what we need is to create the space for the women and conducive environment for them to take their leadership roles. We have a lot of competent women in this country. There is no doubt about that, who can bring a change for the better to our national development agenda. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I want us to put the recommendations from the conference into action, as actions speak louder than words. And what we really need in this new Gambia, we call it, is action. If we want to achieve the goals set in the National Development Plan. I think people have talked about that here since in the morning. We are good planners, we can do good documents, but when it comes to implementation, which is action, that's where we need to revisit. So I'm also adding my voice to what has been said here in the morning, that discussions are enough now. Let's move. Let action happen now. Finally, I want to wish you all a safe trip back to your different locations, and have the belief that we will continue to do things together in our work with the poor and vulnerable people for them to enjoy their rights as citizens. On that note, I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mambore, for your remarks. Now I would like to invite Mambi Juf, National Endowment for Democracy, to also give us a brief closing remark.
I mean, it's been a long day, so my words are going to be thank you words. My name is Mambi Jove, and on behalf of the National Endowment for Democracy, I would like to thank you all for your participation in this event that was looking to strengthen the role of women in democratic governance. And a special thank you to Future in Our Hand for the hard work you put into this event to make it happen. Special thank also to the panelists and the speakers for your brilliant presentation. Special thank you to Danny for the hard work. And this event was really inspiring, and I think that a lot of good ideas came out of it. For Ned, I would like to say that women participation in democratic governance is a priority for us because we believe that with increased women engagement in leadership, that increase is critical for democracy and for economic development. So would like to say that NET will continue to support any initiative and ideas that advance those economic democracy and economic development. It goes without saying that that requires a lot of capacity building, confidence, and collaboration between CSO, between private sector and government to break the barriers to women participation in governance and policies. So I hope that this conference is just a step in a bigger journey of collaboration between all these segments, and that collaboration will enable a sustainable democracy that will deliver for all in the Gambia. So thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you, Mambi Juf. And finally, can we have the most dynamic Daniel Agiemang of World Movement for Democracy to give us the final remark.
Good evening, everyone. What a wonderful day today, right? I think we got a lot out of the conversations today. We've learned from one another. We've been able to be critical of, one another, but in a very constructive way, right? Okay, so I would like to extend our gratitude on behalf of the World Movement for Democracy at the National Endowment for Democracy today. We really have learned a lot in this process. Working with Future in Our Hands has been our pleasure. We understand that there is a lot that has to be done. It's not an easy way forward, but the issues that you guys have raised today, the priorities that you have seemed to come to some sort of agreement upon, we're interested, we're excited to see what happens next. Whether we're talking about participatory budgeting, maternity rights, sexual harassment policies, agriculture, land rights, energy sector reform, we talked about security. These are things that will help us in making democracy deliver in the Gambia. The Gambia is a second home, like a second home to me. I'm originally from Ghana, but I grew up here in the Gambia. And when I say that I have such a special place in my heart for this country, I just swell with pride when I think about the opportunities and where we've come from. After I left here in high school, or well, I guess junior school, I came back after my graduate studies, where Madam Hannah Foster at the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies gave me my very first opportunity, my first job out of college. She's been a mentor, and she's been a friend and a teacher, and it was in that experience that I wanted to ensure that at some point in my life, I would come back to the Gambia. I want to be able to invest in the Gambia. And Auntie Hannah, it's been a pleasure having you represent the World Movement voice here today as a former steering committee member, but also as a mentor and somebody who has invested in me. You know, we've talked a lot about, you know, cross-sector partnerships. And so I would be really remiss for not mentioning our partner SIPE and GCCI, who have really been a strong partner of theirs and who were very active today in our program. We would like to thank you guys so much for your contribution, as well as our partners IRI here and NDI as well, and as well as the Solidarity Center, who's been supporting many of the labor unions here in the Gambia. So one other sector that we haven't quite talked about is another sector that is part of civil society in many ways, although sometimes they aren't often seen in that regard. They are, and they have played a role in helping to deliver democracy. They've been active in different movements, they've been active in different policy spaces, and that is musicians. Musicians have a big role to play here. I know that when the Gambia has decided sort of movement came about, there was also collaboration among civil society members, including musicians. And with the World Movement for Democracy, we've recently launched a sort of a network of musicians to help us in strategically addressing challenges within governance. So what we were seeing in Senegal with the Yanamar movement and what we were seeing with the Balai Sichoen movement in Burkina Faso, you know, musicians were behind a lot of these movements, right? And so we know that's also something that is not unique to the Gambia either. The Gambia also has musicians that we ought to be tapping into as we think about how we make democracy deliver. So with that being said, I think that I would like to call the moderator back and to maybe lead us into our next part of the program, which we're almost done. So we want to encourage you to stay. We want to encourage you to get excited, okay? Because we have a really big treat in store. All right, Madam Moderator. Are we ready? You don't sound like you're ready. Are we ready? Okay, get excited. And again, I'm sorry, so thank you for all of the guests that also traveled. Esther from Ghana, we have Madam Fatou from Senegal, and those who also traveled from upcountry and so forth. Thank you so much for your participation here. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I want to reiterate that question that he asked. Are we excited? Are we excited that we have had this conversation? Are we excited that we've reached its conclusion? Are we excited for what is coming next? Again, I want to recognize the role of art in promoting democracy. In 2016, during the impasse, each one of us in this room or outside of this room might have played an important role. But if you are on the virtual space on Facebook, for example, we have to acknowledge the role of performers, not just in the music industry, but also those in poetry, those that sketch what they call caricatures, because all of these things tell stories about where we are and where we need to go. And that is the reason why it's important that as we call actors in democracy and governance on this stage to hear their stories, to hear their voice, it's important that we acknowledge and we invite some of the musicians who have gained recognition for themselves for being advocates for democracy and good governance through their work of art. One of them being Kela Ace, a rapper. Can you give him a big round of applause? So we're going to have a performance by Kela Ace to entertain us a little bit and wake us up. And I would like to equally recognize our Bling, a female rapper who would be entertaining us as well. And Kela Ace and our Bling are also part of a civil society organization called Team Gomsa Bopa, meaning Team Believe in Yourself. And these people really believe in themselves, and they have contributed to so many of our young people believing in themselves as well. We have a poet, one of my students, Lala Toure, who is also here to entertain us, to educate us as well. And we also have a group that is very dynamic, associated with a group that has been formed by our very own Gina Bassar and her husband, called the Sabali Leadership Academy. So they have formed a choir, and the choir would also be here to entertain us. I might not be back on this stage. Yes, oh. There is also another artist called Lena B. Lena, we appreciate your coming here to share your talent with us as well. So this might be, for today at least, my final appearance here, because as we get into the entertainment, the dancing, we may not have the chance to come back here. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, but especially to the organizers of this event, Future in Our Hands, World Movement for Democracy, and Center for International Private Enterprise. This is a conversation that was necessary. It was a necessary conversation, and I hope that we're going to continue this conversation wherever we find ourselves on our platforms. Those in the education sector, those in the art, those in governance, in the private sector. It's a conversation that we're going to carry along. And it's not just going to stop at the conversation level, but we're going to be able to use what we have learned here and the resources that we have generated from this conversation into action, turning them into action to benefit everyone. So I don't know how the sequence is going to be like, but I would like to start with Kela Ace, and maybe we can have our Blink afterwards, and then the poets Lala and Lena. So thank you again, and thank you for the trust. And I appreciate your understanding of all my limitations, especially with time management and everything else that might have inconvenienced you. Thank you. Kela Ace, is he around? Mr. Dige. Okay, so Kela Ace, Kela Ace is a Gambian rapper. He's an activist, a very prominent activist who was forced into exile sometime around 2014, 2015? And he launched his activities in Senegal, working with many other Gambians in Senegal, but also Senegalese activists fighting against a dictatorship. And in 2016, we won the fight, Kela Ace being a prominent member of those who launched that fight. And for that being the case, he's not just a musician for Gambians. He's a voice for democracy and good governance. So here, I think we're going to be using here because it's more convenient. Huh? Okay. Just to give one last announcement that came to me recently. Those of you who haven't received your transport returns yet, you can have them at the registration. Please.
Thank you so much, beautiful. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Kela Ace, Alabai Soldier, Kuboka Sigeti Nancy Melmi. Welcoming everybody from across the world. Welcome to Gambia, the smiling coast. Sometimes we cry, but we still the smiling coast. And I'm going to perform my first song called The Revolution Starts Now. As I believe true revolution is not from Yaya Jammeh to Adamabaro, but true revolution is us changing within ourselves. Stop fighting each other, stop hating each other, stop killing each other for power and position, and love each other and treat each other like brothers and sisters. So this one is called The Revolution Starts Now. Let's go, everybody. Drop it, DJ. Yeah, yeah. Kela Ace up in the house. Yeah. Yeah, the revolution starts now. Turn the music down. The revolution starts now. Yeah, the revolution starts now. Yeah, the revolution starts now. Let's go, everybody. Yeah, the revolution starts now. Degu Malin. I don't hear nothing, y'all. Degu Malin. Get up, stand up, and play your part now. The revolution starts within, deep in your heart now. Yeah, let's change the way we treat each other. Believe it or not, yo, we really need each other. And when one is hungry, come on, let's feed each other. And when one is sick, yo, we can heal each other. With the knowledge and wisdom, yo, we can teach each other. Yo, she your sister, and he your brother. Then humble down, watch it, soon go, but you don't feel no bugger. We all trapped up in the system, but we can free each other. We all trapped up in the system, but we can free each other. Sun ko defut din na yaga di meti dun am sun bat si rew mi te dun musa nan si mew mi why sun ko defe ñu ñep dinen si njeriño man suma jikko bi in fak ma jël ma wéccu ko e doomi jambur yow bul ko yóbbu sëriñ no. Yeah, the revolution starts now. Get up, stand up, and play your part now. The revolution starts within, deep in your heart now. Yeah, the revolution starts now. DJ, cut that. Yeah, the revolution starts now. I ain't hearing y'all. The revolution. Get up, stand up, and play your part now. The revolution starts within, deep in your heart now. Ain't it sour? We fight each other for the fame and the power. Crabs in the barrel. Yo fucking it the gas papere, fucking it the soul. Jenna hi neka di mata di foof, my brother that the cool. And fuck you with chikoyi. Nuni nenla, garaba dumbo wara maga bulbu di renba. And fuck you change the way that we really treat each other. Believe it or not, yes, we really need each other. And when one is hungry, come on, let's feed each other. And when one is sick, yes, we can heal each other. With the knowledge and wisdom, yes, we can teach each other. Yo, she your sister, and he your brother. Then humble down, watch here soon, bopa, jaro you free no bugger. We all trapped up in the system, but we can free each other. We all trapped up in the system, but we can free each other. Sun ko defut, din na yaga dimeti. Dun am sun bat si rew mi te dun musa nan si mew mi. Why sun ko defe, ñu ñep dinen konjeri ñoo. Man suma copy and fuck my gel mo you call your dormi jambur your bulko yobu city no Kela Ace.
Yeah.
Yo DJ, turn the music down a bit so that they can hear my voice, you know. This one is called I'm a Victim. There has been a lot of female and women victims over the last 22 years, and this one is for y'all. Victims of rape, torture, brutality, arbitrary arrest. I'm a victim, neglected by the system. I'm a victim, neglected by the system. I'm a victim. Then madigon do madalat. I'm a victim. Guaranteed non-reoccurrence. I'm a victim, neglected by the system. I'm a victim, rejected by the system. I'm a victim. Then madigon do madalat. I'm a victim. Guaranteed non-reoccurrence. Yeah, transitional justice, but in this transition I still can't see no justice. Still feeling hopeless deep down, I'm so disgusted. 3 years gone, nothing has been discovered. Yo, I was promised truth, but witnesses are disappearing. Despite my trauma, I don't see no sense of caring. Yo, I smile deep down, it really hurts. They promise to put victims and their dignity first. They don't seem to recognize my violations. They tell me it's a process whilst I'm dying waiting. I see former perpetrators being reinstated. Truth seeking is hard when the truth is being being played with. Justice denied, every day is delaying. If you a victim, then you know what I'm saying. I am a victim of systematic abuse. How we gonna reconcile when we don't even know the truth? I'm a victim. Neglected by the system, I'm a victim. Rejected by the system, I'm a victim. Then what you gonna do, my dollar? I'm a victim. Guaranteed non-reoccurrence.
I'm a victim.
And this is my last song before I go. And y'all gonna have to jump up with me on this one. It's called Kuboka Siketegi, Nancy Melmi. And this is one of the realest songs that ever came out of Gambia. This is for everybody. Drop that. Yeah. Hands in the air, everybody. 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 Kuboka Siketegi, Nancy Melmi. Kuboka Siketegi, Nancy Melmi. Kuboka Siketegi.
Nanti meumi.
Kuboka Siketegi, Wargai Ambasi Melmi. Kuboka Siketegi, Neka Siketegi, Wargai Nancy Melmi. Kuboka Siketegi, Neka Siketegi, Wargai Ambasi Melmi. Your people suffer, things get tougher. They could be tough and tougher. You got loads of Hummers, but can't take the load up off us. The beginner meti, Sako Malo be legi, down now. Dollar be high, Sefa be high. Dallas be going down, down. They could be no mumel, the for extra ground now. You ne kugena simbe be protesting like yo cow now. You boku sigete get nanu si me. Thank you, my peoples. I love y'all, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Kela Ace. I wish we could have prolonged that. Yep. And now we're going to have our Blink, also a member of Team Gomsa Bopa.
Thank you so much. And Danny, thanks for the invite. And shouts to Kela Ace, by the way. I look up to him. I always tell my fellow artists that we really, really need to start talking about things that are really affecting people. We cannot ignore it, because if we do, we suffer. So shouts to Kela Ace, and thank you so much for having me. Yo, DJ. Fanta, I see you. Now this song is called Never Again. And I guess you guys have been sitting for too long, so I want you guys to get up. Let's do this together. We say never again. Let's do this together. Never again. Pull you tell what? Salon you joke one. I say never again. Pull you your use. I send campaign machines. I say never again. Pull you tell what? Salon you joke one. I say never again. Pull your abuse office. I say ñaata cases leen fi am si victim center bi nguur gi gastuwut leen bàyyi leen si mbedd bi ñaata jigéen leen fi tëj lu woon dóor te ba tey amul wérgu yaram dañu reparation never ever ñu ne duñ ko nangu waat nguur gu ñu jógee ñun duñ si dellu waat suñ amee luñ bugga ñun la ñuy fàtte waay ndax seen bopp rek la ñu tal ñaata jigéen si office ñu leen di sexually harass lu tax suñ place ne yeah waxal ñaata jigéen la fi seen doom yi disappear nangu seen alal te rey leen ñu ñaañu ñi bu ñu nax kon bu ragal a wax let's share our stories nit ñi xam lu tax pour suñ doom yi ëllëg ndax bëgguñu I say never again pour ñu delluwaat si lu ñu jógee woon I say never again ñu doon ay victims I say never again pour ñu delluwaat you juggle one. I say never again. I say never again. Yeah. Say never again. Where are the laws that should protect every woman? Daxte ñu ñoy dog ba tay dafa yéme ci man. Sexual harassment dafa melni amu deadline. Ma bamtuwaat ko dafa doy soxlan sen guidelines. Ñu ne doole jigen but we are less represented. Si gannaaw la ñu tek. We want to be independent. Ñom sun amé ñaar lu tañi am bena. Wante duñu na hey, like everybody, pull you down what? Say you juggle one. I say never again. Say never again. I say never again. Pull you, say you juggle one. I say never again. Abuse the office, I say never again. Everybody. Amudara loy tid, yekatil sabat, chiko. Amudara loy ragal, amudara loy tid. Speak up now. Amudara lud. Yekatil sabat, chiko. Amudara loy ragal, amudara loy tid. Yekatil sabat, never again. We say never again. We say never again. Yeah. Say never again. I say never again. Silunyu joge one. I say never again. I say never again. I say never again. Speak up now. Speak up now. This goes out to each and every victim. You are not alone. I am here with you. You are not alone. We are here with you. It's our. Thank you so much. You guys are so beautiful. I'm representing Team Gumsa Boppa. Yo, DJ, next track. This track Bipul Jigenila. It's for women. Goribul and Mernak. Hey, yo, Fanta. You wanna come dance for me? Bul fale, yeah. Bul fale, bul nangu kula wahne yo munulo. We don't wanna be power sides, we wanna be independent. Linga buga dinko am fake by war. Buragala wahni tula de fair dara. Stay strong, make them wonder. Bul nangu ko dasako, bul slumber. We walk through storm, we walk through thunder. We keep moving, we are mothers, what in your suffer. Girls with dreams, women with vision. Yeah, we speaking up, we don't need no permission. Tahawal jigen, bul nangu any division. It's about time you respect new decisions. Bul nangu kula wahna, you ain't good enough. Bul nangu kula na, my sister bul duff. Dega na ne waru nyo am bad kid baye ki jekalinga gombu ko baye nako japamu. Bul nangu kula wahna yo munulo. Yeah, we don't want to be power sides, we want to be independent. Yo linga buga dinko am fake by you wo. Buragala wahni sula de fair dara. Nanyu tahawal jigen. Sulun boku du dem. Nanyu tahawal jigen. Sulun boku du dem. Yo buko dur, te buko saga. Yeah, yo buko dur, te buko saga. Nanyu tahawal jigen. Ndaxte sulun boku du dem. Gal pawa nanyu tahawal jigen. Ndaxte sulun boku du dem. Buko dur, yo buko saga. Yo buko dur, te buko saga. It's to love yourself, build your own world and believe in yourself. Ndaxte dipi bunju do ñu ñoy dictate jot nañu himale ko ñi buñu ci date. Bul nangu ko la use pour mu dimbale la dafay jël lu mbuga ba pare singale la ada taxna be tegu ñu fenn pour ñun wax ñu ne waaw topaleen again. We've been raped, we've been caught forced marriages, physically been abused, miscarriages. Don't let them get away, cause speaking up, there's a place where your courage is. Yeah. Bul nangu ko la wax ne yow mënuloo. We don't want to be power sides, we want to be independent. Linga buga dinko am fake by you wo. Buragala wax nit la gàcce ngalama. Jigéen yang si tool ye gàcce ngalama. Jigéen yang si marché ye gàcce ngalama. Jigéen yang ngi jóg pour fight seen right gàcce ngalama. Kon bu ñu tuutal ndax ñu ngi béy sun waar gàcce ngalama. Gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama, gàcce ngalama. Hey, thank you so much. Bul nangu ku la wax ne yow mënuloo. Bul faale, bul faale.
All right, so thank you very much. Next, we would have Lala Toure, to read us a poem.
Okay, you guys can have your seat. I don't need you to. This is good enough, right? Everybody's seeing me. Okay. I apologize. I'm going to have to be using my phone with this. I have seen the devil. And no, not in my nightmares. I have seen the devil with my own bare eyes. I have seen the devil. I've seen him in flesh and in blood. I've seen him in bones, dressed in human form. See, I have seen him in the darkness of the night in my room. He touched my body, felt the warmth of my skin, and left his nasty marks within. I have seen the devil. In your lust-seeking eyes and in the darkness of your soul, which craved to satisfy its hunger for pleasure from deep within my thighs. I have seen the devil. See, and because of you, my innocence is no longer mine to keep. You broke it piece by piece by piece, bit by bit by bit, until there wasn't any left to take. See, you tore me into tiny little pieces with every trust you made. Removed me of all peace of mind, took away all that was ever mine. See, days and weeks and months and years will pass, but the pain you left behind, it will never fade. How can I forget? The pain you inflicted on my body as you robbed me of my womanhood. The bruises you left between my legs as they got soaked in my own spilled blood. The invisible scars you left on my memories and my heart as you slowly tore me apart. See, did you hear my silent cries or when I screamed? No. See, I guess my screams were not loud enough. I guess my body was not worthy of love. For you, you simply never stopped. You invaded my private space, laid your filthy hands on my precious body, which never deserved the horror it was forced to face. Are you happy now? Tell me, are you at peace? Knowing that you've had me disgraced, knowing that you've destroyed my esteem, you stole a part of me I never knew existed as a teen. See, I was raped and shamed and used, and now I am just another number added to the statistics of victims of sexual abuse. So here I am, hot and confused. See, at just 15, I am pregnant with a seed you left behind. An innocent child I one day have to tell he was born out of rape, fathered by a monster who took everything and disappeared into the silence of the night without trace. Who do I tell? My family? So they can tell me to shh and never speak a word. So they can tell me to hang in there and that I will heal with time. Or wait, do I tell society? So they can tell me that it was all my fault, that my skirts have always been a little too short and that I craved for the touch of your skin against mine. See, I have been told not to raise my voice against you and your kind. I have been told that I should be silent, for if I speak up, I will be further shamed and blamed, and my story will be tagged as nothing but just claims, so I should find a way to just simply live with my pain. But see, the culture of silence ends with me, for I will speak, and I will stand, and I will fight, and I will speak, and I will stand, and I will fight, and even if it means fighting alone, I will fight until you and your kind are sent where you belong, behind bars. Thank you.
That was a brilliant piece, but also the ultimate truth. Speak it again, girl. Next we have Lena Fanta. You are reading on behalf of Lena? On behalf of Lena. Do we have Lena in the room? We have Lena in the room. Okay. So we're going to have a poem by Fanta, a quick one. Yeah. Another poem by Fanta, and then we're going to have Lena. And finally, the choir will close the conference for us. But please, can we come here and sit through the performances? Because they are all part of the program. It's just few minutes left, and we are all back in our homes. Can I kindly request that you are back in the room to join us? It's the Badimbunkas looking for their money. Someone needs to stop giving that money.
Okay, I think I'm also going to read my poem from my phone because it's not memorized actually, so I just had to write it because I'm a seasonal writer. So the poem reads, see, anger, frustration, and tears stirring the spines of our hearts like a seesaw on a living flesh. See, our eyes on a drought for our soft hearts hardened by hate and disgust at the sight of one another. Our mindsets manipulated by political sentiments, but to lines drawn across, drawing us aloof of ourselves, and yet you ask us to reconcile. See, a divided dividend of tribal discrepancies, devouring our hearts of the love, affection, and tolerance we were known for, suppressed by our own leaders for simply expressing our thoughts. See, our women and children caged like birds only to muzzle them off their freedoms of expression, and yet you ask us to unify. See, delusional minds of society will tell you, don't insult our leaders for their representatives of the Almighty God on planet Earth, taking pride and pleasure in looting and neglecting our people. But then where were you? Where were you when the innocent lives were being taken in broad daylight? Where were you when the innocent lives were being taken in the darkness and the silence of the night? Where were you when the image of motherland Gambia was being tainted with the blood of innocent people? Where were you when the Gambia carried the blood of innocent lives innocently on its head and hands? So then where were you? See, the relay is not over yet, no, for we have a historic baton of hematic heaven to pass on to our younger generation, the failed society we were that failed to stand up for its people in a state of melancholy. So if it's up to me, there is no absence of peace, for the absence of peace don't mean war, but rather unaccountability, injustice, and underrepresentation. So if it is up to me, dictators will pay for their crimes. Societies will reconcile. Women will realize their worth. Mother Africa will rise again. For Africa is peace, and peace is Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fanta. May we have Lena on stage? Lena B.
Yes, yes. DJ. DJ. Sorry for that. DJ bi xam naa dafa xiif nuyu naa leen ku ci nekk turam ak santam man la seen xarit Lena bi son bi may ñëw perform nag about women la violence against women ndax gis nañu lu jigéen ñi di dund ci society bi gis nañu tamit lépp li nga xamante ne ñu ngi leen koy def waaye bu ñu taxawee rek dinañ mën a xeex ndax loolu mu jógee fi te bu ñu booloo tamit nekk benn dina gën a yombal mbir mi dina tax lépp li nga xamante ne ñu ngi ko doon teg jigéen rek ñu teggi ko léegi lii bi góor ñi bu leen mer nag jagleel naa ko bépp jigéen àdduna bi fépp 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 DJ ñu dem Lena bi la Stop the violence against women. Stop the violence against women. Give love to our women. Stop the violence against women. Show love to our women. Stop the violence against women. Show love to our women. Stop the violence against women. Man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw ay ca ñu dem ca bi ma dugg see ci kër gi ba tey jàmm aw ma ko fii wax ma lan moo xew damay xëy tegal la ndekki nga romb ko fii wax ma lan moo xew añatoo fi yow reereetoo fi xale yi dañuy xëy di ma laaj mama ana daadi foo ne ni wax ma noo mel ni lu ma wax nga xëpp ci kaani di ma doot ci kanamu xale yi su ma la tegalee ndab nga boole ko tell me why lu ma wax nga xëpp ci kaani lan laa def maak yow la woon su ma la tooñee wax ma ko no more violence against a woman no more violence against a woman don't put her down no man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu ñaaw man sonn naa tay naa wax ma lan laa def lan moo waral lu li ma doon def moo di dab sa bànneex man sonn naa ci sëy bi nga xam ni amul bànneex bi ma doon bëgg yaa fi daxoon wax lu ne toroxal nga ma maa ngi bëgg dee dama doon sëy ngir samay doom jaamu ci yàlla teg naa ko ci yoon bàyyi leen jigéen ñi ngeen di toroxal ndax jigéen yàlla ko suturaal ndax jigéen ay suñu yaay no it's what we need baby no don't put it down no it's what we need no more no I don't wanna see no woman cry no more no I don't wanna see no woman cry yeah thank you jigéen ñi laa ko jagleel képp kuy jigéen rek jagleel naa la son bi DJ téel boobu téye ko ma freestyle tuuti si lu jëm si jigéen and then I'm so happy to be here thank you for having me Dani te di leen jërëjëfe yéen ñëpp I'm a woman I'm the light I'm the night and I'm stronger than a lioness lu yóbbu sama réew kanama soxal soxla naa suuf pour béy dugub ak mboq ndax développement sama réew moo ma ñor du këri ali mool bu la mool se doo ko kee activista be mool ko ma pour ko fonikel sembendi al kanal bulol bula mool bitala fokwena musol alfinti altewositi moleke kilenti lafta moiloko musole mon presidenti na musol alwili ngakele thank you.
Thank you so much, Lena B. And finally, we have the SLA choir to close this session. And we thank you again for being here, for continuing to be with us all throughout the day.
Hey.
Good evening. This is the SLA Cultural Choir. We're honored to be invited to this wonderful initiative and platform. Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama, Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama, oh Sona.
Sona Mariama, oh Sona Mariama.
Tiningo balanta bana fire dola.
Sona Mariama.
Akabitala koreto.
Kwama kwama. Sona Mariama, mining bambu, oh Sona Mariama, tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Sona Mariama, oh Sona Mariama, niningo balanta bana fae dola, Sona Mariama, akabitala kurito kuma wayo dala, Sona Mariama, minim bambu, oh Sona Mariama, tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama Sibu.
Sona Mariama, Sona Mariama.
Tiningo balanta bana fire dola.
Sona Mariama.
Akabitala koreto
Koma
wayo dala.
Sona Mariama. Minim bambu, oh Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Minim bambu, Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Minim bambu, oh Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Minim bambu, Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Minim bambu, oh Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Minim bambu, Sona Mariama. Tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama Sibu.
Sona Mariama, tilo binam fala, Sona Mariama.
Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama, Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama, oh Sona.
Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama. Sona, oh Sona, oh Sona Mariama, oh Sona. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Manyo bekumbola ke marbelari.
Ke marbelari.
Manyo bekumbola ke marbelari. Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masane sise.
Bintang bolong dalam masane sise.
Masana Sise.
Dunia betenten saya binala. Dunia betenten saya binala. Dunia, oh. Dunia betenten saya tebaila. Dunia betenten saya binala. Dunia betenten saya tebaila. Dunia, oh. Dunia betenten saya tebaila. Bakarimane Soromane Bakarimane Soromane Bakarimane Soro Soromane Mini ambasa baye konolelo Saba miniamba, saba ye konolelo. Saba miniamba, saba ye konolelo. Saba miniamba, saba ye konolelo. Saba miniamba,
saba ye konolelo.
Saba ye.
Amol miniamba, saba ye konolelo. Saba miniamba. Miniamba sabaye kololelo.
Sabaye.
Amol miniamba sabaye kololelo. Saba miniamba.
Are gaure. Yaw tere. Sali dega chewa jabu gonga. Sunyu Gambia. Monyu bole. Sunyu Gambia bi. Nyun nyokomo. Wanyu mantide. Badi dulo, Najuba, Tabandi hulo,
Miliamba sabaye konolelo.
Sabaye,
Amol miliamba sabaye konolelo. Saba miliamba, miliamba sabaye konolelo.
Sabaye,
Amol miliamba sabaye konolelo. Saba miliamba.
Mbolo moidole. Idole, moi sunyu jamire
Bolo, Bolo, moi idole, moi sunyu jamire.
Bolo moi idole, yayo. Bolo moi idole, moi sunyu jamire
Bolo, moi idole, Bolo moi idole, moi sunyu jamire.
Nenyu benno neka benna ayayo suñ ko defé rew mi mëna dem kanam moy suñu jamire
Miliamba saba miliamba miliamba saba ye konolelo saba miliamba
nenyu benno neka benna ayayo suñ ko defé rew mi mëna dem kanam moy suñu jamire
Miliamba saba miliamba Miliamba sabaye konolelo saba
miliamba yo
Miliamba saba miliamba Miliamba sabaye konolelo saba Miliamba saba miliamba Miliamba sabaye konolelo konolelo Saba Miliamba Miliamba Saba ye konolelo Saba Miliamba
Miliamba Saba Miliamba yo Miliamba Saba ye konolelo Saba Miliamba.
What a brilliant choir. This was beautiful. Thank you. So this is the end of the conference. Again, thank you all for coming and for staying with us, for sharing your voices with us, for being willing to take action with us.